It's been that long.
Maybe it has been that long. Yeah. Well, my name's Matthew. Nice to meet you.
My name is Robert. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Now that we've got that silliness out of the way. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Tired, but doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this because you're still recovering from Ireland? Noticed my invite went missing. Okay.
Yeah, Ireland was great. And I think the joy of Ireland faded very quickly once I got back because it was immediate work. It was a lot of fun, but work has been amazing. Lots of stuff around AI, as you might expect. Started experimenting with what the future of product management looks like, pushing the envelope on the things that I can actually do with AI. And I think I'm getting on the bad side of UX people. So this is an appropriate conversation, I think.
Yes. Well, I think I shall be I get on the bad side of UX people. So
you'll be the judge of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know really well what gets on their nerves. And it's anything that takes away their power.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I start experimenting with things that, definitely step on their turf, people get really jittery. I've been experimenting with synthetic users in ChatGPT, creating armies of users that have different personalities, different age groups, so the demographics are all over the place, and being able to say, hey, pick 10 or 100 users that have these qualities that would understand this particular client, and being able to either upload an image, launch them on a site, and say, what do you think? And holding my own workshops inside ChatGPT's environment. It's quite powerful. It's also fun to get them to argue with each other.
Yeah. It's like, finally, I'm living out my focus group dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how are you? I'll just jump to the chase here. How are you handling? I'll just broadly categorize as hallucinations.
So I embrace it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think there are industries where hallucination is bad. Right. You don't want the medical industry making decisions based on hallucination.
Where you have zero tolerance for error, basically. Yeah.
For the work that I do, the work that we do, I think a hallucination should be welcome. I think you need to look at it and think, well, is that a good idea? Where does it get this from? Where can it lead? I might even ask questions about it sometimes. And when I'll say, oh, you mentioned this, that's interesting, tell me more. Often it'll come back and say, oh, yeah, no, I made this up. It really isn't true. And it'll correct itself. But I don't mind because, look, if you're creating synthetic users, you're actually asking the LLM to make something up to begin with. So the whole synthetic user is an hallucination. Yeah. And from there, you're trying to explore the space, trying to explore what ideas they might come up with. And I find myself very surprised sometimes by what they're saying. And they're oddly on point. So an example, I launched a set of users on one of my clients' websites. I said, hey, click on this particular link, choose a product that you think matches what you would like, and tell me what you think. And they come back and they do that. And I'll say, well, why did you choose this product? And it will start telling me as if it was like its whole life story and it studied it and how it wants to spend. And this is all hallucination. Right, but I think that, I wonder if sometimes end users will do the same thing. They'll, you're interviewing them and invariably they want to give you important information. And so how true is what they're telling you? How much is it, their hope that it would be a certain way or how they would imagine it to be. And therefore I think it's great.
Trying to look good or.
Yeah. Everybody's influenced by something, right?
Yeah.
So I don't worry about the hallucination too much for the things that we do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when it returns some results, you have to read it. The concept I keep talking about is that you've got to have man in the middle, or person in the middle, read and know what you're doing. So no, I could not get someone who's got no experience in UX, no experience in product management to look at this and just suddenly say, oh, yeah, sure, this is okay. You still need the experience. And this is where it plays. So research that might have taken us 3 weeks, 4 weeks can now be done in 10 minutes, at least to go directionally towards some kind of information that you can then take and take it to real users to quantify the results and say, do you think this is true? But further, what I'm able to do with these users, though, which I think is the next step that's really important, is ask them to discuss how they would change the site. What are their pain points? And then based on their pain points, tell me what features you'd like to see changed on the site or in a product that I've given them a picture of. And they often will do that. And more often than not, I would say maybe even like 80% of the time, they're actually correct. And being able to say, okay, cool, you've got this feature, mock it. Now I can get an image mock of it, and now I can also get a clickable model of it. So if I've got the clickable model of this feature we're talking about, I can now run it by end users and say, this is what we're thinking of doing. What do you think of this? When I have a clickable model in 10, 20 minutes of having a conversation, that's unheard of. This kind of speed allows me to iterate more.
Right.
So it's not so much about, can I work faster, get my work done, and then just go hiking? It's the opportunity. Well, I might, but
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
but the opportunity of being able to test and learn and fail more quickly, I think is phenomenal. That's what's interesting to me, that I can refine the results much more quickly and many times over than I could in the past. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm having a great time, and it's taking a lot of my time thinking through what that could be. But yeah, I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah, it's I'm not against it.
Deep thought for a moment.
I am against it.
Let me not throw my guest out.
Yeah. No. Honestly, the sooner everybody talks about this stuff, the faster we'll get to better ways of doing things. Yeah, my concern, two things about what you said. One, what you're doing, what I would do in a quote unquote traditional research setting, there are biases inherent in those systems, right? And we do our best to be aware of them. We do our best to mitigate them, but we know there are. And when you introduce real humans or synthetic humans, there are going to be biases reflected back from those actors, I'll say. Not that they're acting, but I couldn't think of another word.
That's a good word.
Yeah, anyway.
We all act.
That's a service design term anyway, so we'll lean into it. One of the things that I always go back to, regardless of who is either facilitating the research or who is participating in it, who you're eliciting feedback from, is how are you formatting your questions? Like literally, what is, like, are you asking open-ended questions? And this is I'm also asking you, but like I'm setting up this premise of like, are you asking open-ended questions, or are you asking what I've heard of PM ask before is like, if we made an app that made your life better, would that make your life better? That's not a helpful question. So I'm wondering the extent to which you're, with this experiment, how much are you also interrogating your inputs, as well as the outputs, you know?
Yeah, I have a few ways to do it. So I like to start broad with the synthetic users because I never know where they're going to go to start. And then when the output is there, I read through it carefully. And then I might pick a couple of users by name and I'll say, well, why does Jane think that exactly? How would she feel if then I have a bit more of a leading question because I'm trying to think about what is the problem I'm trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's suggesting a particular pain point, then how I might be able to solve that pain point because I find the pain point interesting. Conversely, what I can also do is I've taken to ask ChatGPT to behave as a moderator. And it'll surprise you how good it does. And tell it, look, ask one question at a time to the same users. Let's do a round robin, and I'll start. So I'll say, well, I think this. And it'll ask the question of the users and give me results.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll say, well, I don't agree with so-and-so. What do they think about it? And then that synthetic user starts responding. So that the AI is responding as a synthetic user. It becomes a whole conversation. I swear, I'm not bored, right? I'm actually doing research. It's not like I don't have any friends. It sounds like I don't have friends. I want to just hang out with synthetic user.
Right.
But you can simulate that. And I find that you end up having really good insights and ideas. It really starts triggering my critical thinking in ways that it hadn't before. And I think I made a comment to a friend a couple of days ago. I said, what I'm enjoying about this in some ways is we used to be able to do that sitting around an office with friends and working and kind of even shooting around the desk saying, well, what do you think of that? And just having a conversation. And post-pandemic, a lot of that happens on our own. And so we're sitting by ourselves trying to really think, having the ability to bounce things off these random digital things, digital beings, I think is really useful. And it's really helped me keep practicing my critical thinking and then take it to a colleague and get on video like we are and just say, hey, so this is what I did and this is what they think. Where do you think this is going? What else should I ask? And now I have something to go back and forth with, and it's effective and efficient for our time because they might be busy, but if we take 10, 15 minutes on a call to discuss something that's happening, they might have an idea that triggers something else I'm doing. Or what I'll do is I'll copy and share the link of the whole workshop. And then they'll go in there and start messing around with it and asking it questions. And then we come back and we share notes. So it's just a very different way of working. And that's what I'm exploring. Is it going to last that way? Is it going to stay that way? Who knows? I mean, if you think about it, what was it? I mentioned vibe coding earlier. February was when the term was coined. And 6 months before, I could never do any of this in any of the LLMs. And so the leaps every 6 months are massive right now. So who knows what's going to happen in 6 months and in a year from now. But just exploring and understanding what's possible is pretty darn cool.
Well, I think from what I know of you, I feel like, not that you need my trust in this, but I feel like I trust your approach to this tool as a way to experiment thinking through problems and approaches that you might use to solve those problems. Because you've said a couple of times, like, this is making me, maybe you didn't say it exactly this way, but like making me engage with my critical thinking skills more. I would say mostly through no fault of their own, because PMs are often tossed into the mix and good luck. And they don't get a lot of support to do their job, but I see a lot of uncritical thinking. Yes, I agree. And where I'm worried about all this stuff is not solely, it's mostly not the use of the tool. It's that interim between using the tool and making a business decision. Yep. And I know you know this, but just to expand or complete the thought, like, that's the space that I think has the most inherent risk for getting things wrong, because there's too much opportunity for garbage in, garbage out. There's too much opportunity for not understanding that it's okay to let the hallucinations be hallucinations and go with it. But ultimately, you're still making that critical thinking decision of, I know this is a hallucination. I'm not going to worry about it right now because I'm experimenting with this, or I'm trying to get something, trying to get to a point with this, and I'm not worried about that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess kind of going back to the very top of what you said, like, you're doing this experimentation. What I know of you, you're going to turn around and turn it into, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but turn it into something that, if not descriptive, is prescriptive about how people should be using these
mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And that middle part between using the tool and business decision, like, what are you doing in that space to ensure to de-risk as much as possible? That was a long walk down a short pier for that.
No, I was going to ask you a question back on that. I completely understand the point of view. And in fact, I had a conversation with a friend that was similar in a different arena. And I'll talk about it in a minute. But how is that any different from you working with, let's say, more junior people who come to you and say, oh, yeah, this is the business decision we should make?
Right, yeah.
How do you de-risk that? You have to de-risk that too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think the problems are different. They can happen faster. You can have a disaster faster.
Yeah.
Why? I'm trying to understand.
Let's get the disaster over with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to understand, why is the problem different than it would be if you were in person and you were going through the steps with someone?
It's not.
Right.
It's not different. But I don't think companies have fully solved for that problem either. Because again, I go back to, regardless of how many people crow about how the three-legged stool, or whatever the metaphor is these days, of product engineering and design are working together, ultimately product is in charge at a lot of these organizations, or it's engineering. It's rarely design, which is fine. Whatever. I don't cry about it often. But it's like, you're a product manager. You're a feature manager, but whatever. You're a product manager. You're on this thing. Everybody's, deliver, ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that even before these AI tools have come into play, that most organizations have solved for that problem.
No, I don't think they have.
So I agree with you. It's the same, but I think it still hasn't been rectified yet.
I think so. I think there's going to be an auto rectification. Here's what I mean by that. I think one of the reasons I went down this path is because one of the things that we've been trying is to automate, the life cycle of software development, right? As part of that, we've been trying to address, how do we generate features, user stories faster, right? And as I was thinking through that, I thought, is that really the right question? Is that the right thing to solve for? So one day a client came and said, hey, we've got these features here. I have about 60 features. Can you generate user stories for it? And I said, sure, I could, because they wanted to see how the LLM would work. And sure enough, I generated something like 650 user stories just sitting there in 10 minutes. And then they realized, which is a problem, because now if I import this into my backlog, what the heck am I going to do with all this? So when I talk about it with people now, I say, don't do that. Don't automate where you are today. You have to think about where you are tomorrow. And so I think about, what value am I bringing in the future? So the value I'm bringing is my experience, just like you. And those who are not paying attention, those who are not really thinking about it and really trying to grow in experience and do critical thinking, I think are going to be left out. Yeah. And this is what I mean by, it's going to be self-selected, because they're just simply not going to keep up in some ways, and they're not going to be able to think about it critically. And so their job is going to change, and they may not end up being in whether it's UX or product. I think they're going to be somewhere else. Not that they're not going to have a job, but not doing what they're doing. And so now, when I think about it now, well, how do I solve for this man in the middle problem? Like, how do we manage that? How do we manage the risk? Well, you got to make sure that you're constantly training your product managers to think differently and to sit back and not just take the output for what it is, but you use your noggin, use your experience to say, this doesn't make any sense, or this makes sense, but I'm not so sure. So let me go check with someone. And you can't get there unless you're trying it. So the first step to break that is to not be afraid of it, not be afraid of AI, not be afraid of using it. The second step is understanding what it's giving you and getting comfortable with what's going to happen. And then saying, okay, they're probably going to respond this way. I have that answer, maybe. Okay, how do I clarify it? Do I want to clarify it further into this conversation, or do I want to grab a bunch of people to do it? What's going to make the most sense? And you can only get that by experimenting. Right. So if you're not trying things in AI to see what it's returning, you're not going to know how to make the decision. Should I stay or should I go? Kind of thing, right? And then go to something else. So that's what you have to decide. And I think it's the same with UX. I mean, and it's not any different from, I think, our day-to-day lives before AI. That's why I said I don't think it's any different, but it's more amplified. Like, you're going to fail and you're going to hit a wall very quickly, because how many cases have we heard of already of lawyers just relying on AI going in court and, a judge going, this is not a real case. Yeah. Well, use your brain, dummy, right? Go research it. I mean, it's a good thing you started with that, but go to the library, open the book, figure out whether there's a case that exists or not before you go in there. And that's what you need to do. You need to go to the next step. It's not a shortcut. Nothing is a shortcut here. And I think too many people think of it as a shortcut.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't read it or read the articles or the research about it, but I've been seeing these things crop up about like people's ability to think critically about things. The more it goes down, the more they rely on these AI systems.
Yeah. I mean,
I think, it needs to be the opposite. We actually need to lean more into critical thinking skills.
Correct. And that's what I'm finding, that the people who are being influenced in a negative way are people who are not spending time doing the critical thinking, which is why I started realizing the more I'm pushing through it, the more it's actually pushing my critical thinking. Is this right? What else should I be asking? Yeah, I mean, dove right into it, I guess.
It's my favorite kind.
So
yeah. I think one of the things, and this relates, so it's not too clumsy of a segue, but we'll see. One of the things that keeps coming up for me is, how do I want to say this? So, this podcast, whatever it is called the UX Matto Show. I've been a UX, I just keep wanting to do air quotes. I've been a UX person for, I don't know, this is my 26th year, something like that. Not that we called it UX back in the day, whatever. I'm not that old. I am that old. But like, and you and I have had conversations around this in the past, but like, I have for a long time really felt like whatever UX has become, that's not my place anymore. Even though I think a lot of the activities and skills, even some of the deliverables, you can see those showing up in product management, business analyst analysis, whatever, in other roles, right? Because there's long been an overlap in a lot of the things that we do. Because of that, I found myself like being drawn into these more like product strategy, business strategy kinds of discussions and projects. And it almost, this is a really long-winded segue. Hi. It's my show. I can do what I want. That a lot of times the initial ask is a UX ask, right? It's, hey, this form isn't converting, or hey, we need this, we need to reduce the amount of errors that are happening in the software. Often enough to say always, that's never the problem.
That's right.
I mean, it is a problem, but it's a symptom.
That's
it's
right.
It's always, always, always how that organization has designed itself, stop with the air quotes, has designed itself, and how it's delivering on the promises it makes and how it's delivering on those promises. That's the setup for the question.
I'm smiling because you're hitting at a spot that is near and dear to me right now. Conway's Law is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The software reflects the shape of the organization. And there are so many organizations that didn't used to be digital organizations that are now having to be digital organizations, but they never bothered to restructure. And so they kept the old structure of how the company works, expecting that they could just run the same way and produce the right digital product. And that never works. It ends up being a problem because whatever silos you have inside the company are going to show up in your digital product. Whatever miscommunication or lack of skill set that you have in your company is going to show up in your digital product. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, often there is an element of experience design in it. There's an element of engineering in the problem. But the problem is actually an organizational change management problem. And that's some of the things that we're having to deal with now. So even as a product manager, current client, we're looking at the future of a digital strategy. And in order to meet the goals that they want to achieve in the next 2 or 3 years, there's no way they can do it with the way they're organized now. And so that becomes a super difficult conversation because you're saying, yeah, you can do it and you're going to change it this way. And by doing that, by the way, you're probably going to not need everyone you have because the level of inefficiency you've introduced to the organization over time is just way too high. You're spending way too much on digital. You're spending way too much on IT or whatever it is because of it. And so now, because you've reached a plateau, you're unable to make more money, you've got to do something about it. So you've got to fix your bottom line first. To fix your bottom line, you've got to reorganize. Once you do that, that's how you start unlocking, getting more money, et cetera, because now you're more efficient. Now you're built the right way. And it's a difficult problem. And that's not one that I'm going to even venture to touch AI with yet, to be honest. This is a human problem and it has to be treated as a human problem. But it's difficult because how do you have that conversation with your client to say, you got to let go of a lot of people if you change this, and you got to restructure how you're built, and the resistance is so high. I mean,
yeah, it's a massive amount of resistance, and I know that part of it is it's like, well, what does this UX guy know anything about this stuff, right? Because UX is screens, right? It's not, but whatever.
Well, I mean, it's the experience, right? And it's not only the experience of the digital in the digital domain.
Of the whole system.
Yes, it's the experience of the people, of the company, of the customer, the interaction with the customer. You're designing the whole thing for it to work as, like you said, as a whole. Yeah.
I don't know. It's the times where I've, to your point, what you just said, like, yes, you can do it, but it's going to take some massive changes. I've had those conversations, and I think that by and large, it's a mix of like they're not ready to hear it. It's often the first time they're hearing it, so of course that's not going to go over well. And the idea that it's not just, we've got to reduce our IT workforce by 30%. It's probably also whoever's in the C-suite right now. You may not be the right CEO for this transformation that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And that, talk about instant resistance right there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're paying for it, right?
Yeah, right. So you're saying I'm fired?
Yeah, you're saying I'm going to pay you, and then I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. It's I know it's a very complex issue, but like I'm trying to figure out like how I can. I think I'm realizing this as I'm saying it. This is why it's taken me a while to get the thought out. But I think what I'm really trying to do is figure out what my place is and how to position that in such a way that someone wants to hire it. Because I don't, like, UX is fine, and I owe a lot to my UX career for how I look at the world and how I help fix the world. But yeah, I don't know what path to continue down. I think that's what I've been struggling with for a while.
Have you considered just not keep going down the same path?
You mean become a barista? Yeah, I have thought about that.
That drastically.
Okay. All right. Well,
but look, I mean, if you think about it, right? How many times have we rebranded companies? Mm-hmm. Right. So what's your rebrand? That's how you have to look at it. That's how I'm looking at it right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, you mentioned it briefly earlier. You mentioned the word BA. I think 6 months from now, if things keep going the way they are, I can probably run teams with no business analysts. I don't need that.
Yeah.
So what is that business analyst going to do? Right? Same position as you're finding yourself in with way more experience. The business analyst is probably not going to have the experience you have. So what are they to do? They have a choice. They can adopt AI, try to speed up their learning so that they can get to the point where maybe they can help more senior product managers think through things, offer up thoughts, help. They can learn how to vibe code to generate proof of concepts. Like, how do you become really useful in that world? I mean, QA went through it too. If you think about people who were doing software testing, there used to be a world where, I call it clickety-click QA, like clicking on the mouse, right? On everything. And then we've automated the whole thing. And even more so now. Well, what are these folks doing? If they didn't learn how to code, I mean, maybe they are baristas. I don't know. But there's got to be something that they've learned that they can readapt. So that's the question, I think, that you have to think through. I think the vast amount of experience that you have from an experience design point of view is remarkable in a different way. You just have to think about the angle at which you're coming in. I presume right now the people that reach out to you know you because you do UX, right?
Yeah.
So how do you find the people who know of you but may explore you being able to offer something different? Like what you just said, that the experience of how you're working in a company needs to change.
Yeah.
So could you take your experience design, augmented with AI, not from the sense of, hey, I'm going to do all my designs with it, right? But augmented with AI in a way that you could bring value to existing experience designers at a company on how to adopt AI without fear? Or could you bring it to the C-suite? You say, here's how you ought to be doing this thing, and here's a new workflow for you to adopt AI. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going through that want to do this AI transformation now. So I think we're seeing the new age of doing agile transformation that's going to go on for years and years. And some companies succeed, other companies are still where they are trying to do it. And so I think that's a play. I think that's a space where we need people who are critical thinkers, who understand how to use this new tool to empower the companies to convert and start competing in the market. And I think experience design, product management, are two areas that are going to be at the forefront of it. Sure, engineering is going to be there too. Engineering is already there. I mean, these guys are like rewriting their code with it, et cetera, et cetera. But that's, to me, that's still down in the weeds. And honestly, these guys are suffering right now because they can do a lot of things much faster, but the whole stack above them is not there.
Right. Yeah.
And so how do we, as either product or experience, coming in to say, hey, let me show you how to do it differently. Here's a workflow, and let me show you how I think about it and how I work through it. And you establish yourself as somebody who's on the forefront of the, I call it revolution, who understands previous experience and what past experience is going to look like, and connect the two dots together. Because 10 years from now, we won't need that. You're going to have people who just know how. People, in the marketplace that you hire that just know how. But I think we can be that connection between the two.
All right. Well, great talking to you. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. I got my answer. I'm fine.
I mean, look, it's a problem. I mean, even though, I'm lucky enough, because I know many are not, including yourself, like, I'm lucky enough to be working full time. It's still on my mind. It's still, what is the next thing I want to learn? Where is this going to go? How do I protect myself and be useful? And I think that's the thing. This is what we all strive for, right? It's not that just I have a job and, just typing on the keyboard. We want to be useful. We want to give back. So how do we do it?
Yeah, that's been my thing for a really long time. Like, I wrote a post about this, I don't know how many years ago, but like, I don't care what my title is. Mm-hmm. I just want to help and feel like I'm helping. And I want to get paid too, just for the record. But that's feeling valued, understanding that I am imparting value, helping people. That's what I want. I don't want to be a UXer. I don't want to be a PM. I don't want to be a AI transformation coach. It's, and perhaps that's too broad. Maybe it's too broad just to say, I know it is too broad to say that I just want to help, but like the feeling that drives me is that.
Yeah. I mean, you like to solve problems and you like to see people go, oh, that's so amazing. That's how we get our thrill out of it. I mean, I'm getting paid too, right? That's great.
Right. And getting paid too.
Yes, getting paid
just
too.
Just to underscore that.
To be clear, we want to get paid too. So, and I don't know why it just popped in my head. The other thing you ought to think about is generative UI.
Okay.
So
say more. I'll put on my researcher hat. Say more about that.
So let me tell you what I've been thinking about on that. And I've been thinking about it from a product management perspective. And I think of this as the anti-product manager. If you think about the products we have, take the iPhone as an example, like, people familiar with it. iPhone 1 to what we have now. The amount of things that the iPhone can do, most of us don't use it. What if we could create experiences that morphed based on our behavior within a certain product? Mm. So I use the iPhone over time, and it learns that, all this other stuff my little owner doesn't need. I'm going to morph the interface and simplify it to bring forward all the things he does need. And then suddenly I'm more engaged, I'm more efficient with it, likely resulting in better business outcomes because you've adapted to me. And as I'm working through it, if I get stuck, I might ask a question. Hey, how do I do this thing? Oh, that's hidden. Let me show you. Suddenly a piece of the menu shows back up with a little explanation of how to use it. Now it becomes part of your interface. Mm-hmm. I think this is the direction we're going to go, and something to really think about. How do we take it there and make it happen sooner than later?
Personalization. This is
adaptation,
akin to this personalization effort that I see companies doing sometimes, where they're approaching it from a I feel like a more of like a gamified perspective
Mm-hmm.
where it's trying to get something to adapt to somebody's behaviors, right? So you're always, the system's like, hey, I noticed that every night between 8:53 and 9:13 you're turning on the light by your bedside table.
I'm just going to do it.
I'm just going to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to think about it. I know there's some hurdles in there, but because if it's not a smart light and it can do that, oh crap.
Wait.
It's like, you've got something there. Yeah. Allow me to invest in that. But yeah, it's, it reminds me of this project that I did a couple of years ago, especially for like business processing. Like I think there's a space for it on the consumer side, but on business processing, this client had built their application to be the prescripted path for doing the work. So when the worker came in, they would assembly line it, basically. But depending on the type of work that was coming in, they may have to be like, next. Okay, this is the form I have to fill in. Next. This is the form I have to fill in. Okay, I only had to do 2 forms in this 27 form thing, but I had to go through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this interface should change based off of the kind of work that's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
To only show them the things that they need to focus on. And it wasn't, AI on the fly kind of development. It was still if then, classic if then. Yeah. But yeah, so like what you're describing makes sense to me, because that's one of my projects that, because as a consultant, and certainly sometimes as an internal person, especially at the IC level, which as a consultant, you're kind of at that level in a way, that you don't always know what your impact was, especially for a bottom line kind of thing. It's hard to quantify. Mm-hmm. And that project was like, within like 2 months, they were doing 30% more business.
Mm-hmm. Not surprised.
Which was an extra $10 million a year. And just for saying, hey, just match the interface to the kind of work that they're doing in the moment that they're doing it. Is that hard? They were like, no, actually that isn't hard. So yeah, I think, I definitely think there is something to that. The risky areas are always, for what I'm imagining what you're describing, is when the interface changes, that change management aspect of, hey, the button's not there anymore. Here's why, without being overly obtrusive about like why I took that away from you.
Yeah.
So.
But would you notice the button if you're not using it? It was just disappear. You're just like, oh, the interface is cleaner. Cool. Like, I think people like...
I mean, I would, but...
Well, okay.
But no, I know what you're saying.
Case,
yeah.
I think.
No, well, I mean, that's like...
Be. Yeah.
That's one of the things that bugs me to no end about Slack is I will be in certain channels and I'll be like, I have organized them in a certain way. And Slack's like, no, you don't need to do that. We're going to put all your unreads at the top. Like I can't scroll, and it's, so the interface is moving around and I don't like that.
Yeah. That drives me crazy when it does that.
The way that I set it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you intentionally put it a certain way.
So I think what I want in this, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what I want in this scenario you're describing is a moment of the system going, hey, you haven't used this for a while. I'm going to get rid of it. Cool. And then over time, maybe I get there, but I think that interim, I still want the user to be able to have a say on the change.
Yeah, maybe unless it's my mom.
Just doing it.
I'd want it to listen to what mom is saying and just kind of like fix it as she goes. Right.
That's probably right.
That's, like even as simple as a mail app. Why does it have all this? I can never find this stuff. Where is this thing? And I wanted to just kind of say, oh, boom, there it is. Yeah. And kind of pause for a minute and think, wow, it actually did what I asked it to do. Cool. Now I know what to do, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, considering my parents can't even call Alexa from across the kitchen to ask her to do something, that's why you just got to listen to what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
process it, and then
Mm-hmm.
do something about it. And this would be pretty funny and pretty cool.
Yeah.
Could make a game out of
All
it
right.
too.
Well, sold. Yeah. Yeah. I find that at this point in my career, gamification, validation, these are becoming trigger words for me because I think that it's much like the AI in a way. It's, hey, we need an AI solution. Go make one. Okay, now we have a chatbot. Now what? Without really thinking like more like what you're doing. What's the problem I'm trying to solve here? How can this be useful?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it isn't useful in this way, but it is kind of useful in this way. Let me explore that some more.
Mm-hmm.
Except I think what's happening more, at least right now, is there's a proclamation, implement AI into our system because we can't be behind.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Which I understand the sentiment,
Mm-hmm.
but could we have a week of sitting down and going, all right, well, what kind of AI? How do we want that to help
Yeah,
us?
because AI is so broad, right? But lately,
Right.
I think companies, when they say AI, they think of Gen AI. They don't necessarily think of artificial intelligence, machine language, that kind of stuff, which is all AI. Gen AI, I think, is the latest, like, ooh, I can talk
Yeah,
to
it's
it.
the ooh shiny.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
talk to it. I find that generally when we get a directive, hey, I want to add AI to this, we're given enough time to sit down and think through it. And it's, I've codified it to a process that I've talked about. In fact, when, with our good friends at the bureau, it's just the bureau now.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Carl. But,
Hi, Carl. Carl won't watch this. He doesn't support me. No.
I'll ping him right after. Make sure he does. But I think if you this is where taking our experience from the past and applying it to the future, dig in as something as simple as value stream mapping that comes from Six Sigma, etc., manufacturing. First applying it to software and delivering software. Now applying it to figuring out where could I put AI? So asking questions, well, what is your flow?
Mm-hmm.
And where do you think that you're slowing down so that we can give you value? Or where can we introduce benefits? And you tend to discover the areas and pinpoint them very quickly that if we try it right here at this spot first, we think it's going to change your life in this way or it's going to change your revenue in this way. And if you do it one slice at a time and you're very targeted, you're solving for the right problem and the right thing, whether it's AI, Gen AI, whatever it is. And I'm seeing a lot of really good results from it. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at product development life cycles and thinking through, okay, so how do we change this product development life cycle for a company? Okay, let's do a value stream. Let's understand the life cycle. Now, how do we
Yeah.
introduce AI in this life cycle? What does it make? What makes sense for the company, for these people? What can I teach them in a way that's going to be effective? And we're usually given the time to do that. Something else you might want to consider.
I would like that. I would like more time to figure these things out. And I recognize, as I was saying it, I recognize I'm having sort of recency bias because I've both been involved and seen it happen very recently where it's just, hey, we need an AI solution. Again, it's like, okay, but you don't need a chatbot. Like, you don't.
It's bizarre that that's the first thing they keep asking for. Can I have a chatbot?
Yeah, and as I said in a recent episode of this, is like the chatbot is kind of becoming the hello world. right? This is the thing we can build that's pretty quick, that everyone recognizes and we can say works. But, to your point of, digital transformations taking forever, agile transformations taking less time but still taking forever, like the AI transformation is still going to take a while, but it's just going to be faster. And so,
not only that, I think what's dangerous with the transformation is that it's changing really, really fast. And if you're not in it from the beginning, a year from now, you're not going to understand what happened. And it's going to be hard to catch up.
yeah.
So if anybody's like sitting there thinking, maybe someday, I don't know what I'll use it for, like, go figure it out. Like, I started with looking at all the ingredients I have in my fridge of leftovers and saying, hey, how do I make something with this? And it telling me, I don't care. Like, use it for whatever you want. It's super useful. And then from there, start asking, well, what else can I do with it? That reminds me, like, we were talking about chatbots, and that triggered a thought. I was trying to make a reservation at a restaurant a few weeks ago, and I called the restaurant, and the answer was simply, hello, and it said the restaurant name. I don't remember what it was. How can I help you? And so I said, yeah, I want to make a reservation for Friday night at 7:00. And you guys taking a reservation? Well, yes, we take reservations. 7:00 for how many people? And so I said, for 2 people. Okay, just a moment. I said, and then it came back and said, thank you. I'm Lydia. I'm the AI assistant. I've made the reservation for you. And I went, wow. I could not tell for the first 2 to 3 minutes of like answering the questions that it was an AI bot. But to me, that was such a good use of it, because how many times you call a restaurant, they don't pick up, or they pick up and there's so much noise. You can't hear anything. They can't hear you. Okay, hold on a second. Putting you on pause, and then they come back 5 minutes later. Yeah, okay, open table, all that stuff. Yeah. I get it. But sometimes they don't take these services.
Right.
So being able to implement something like that, I thought was pretty clever and a great use of AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also categorically, it's, taking reservations is a front of house activity that is important, but it is not as important as addressing the needs of the people who are actually in the room,
standing in front of you,
the service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you can automate that, it doesn't take someone. That's a case where it doesn't take someone's job away. It frees up someone.
That's right.
To concentrate more on the job that's in front of them. So to me, that's the kind of thing that we should be looking at. And like, what are these little slices that we can address, do it well, but not, hey, we're going to have, I can't think of a good example for a restaurant. We're going to have an AI dishwasher? No, that doesn't make any sense.
My server's still got to come. They have servers, and they have, the robots to deliver your food, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah. The robot comes, you take the food, you serve yourself, but that's okay for, kind of fast-ish food place. But personally, if I go into a fancy restaurant and you're showing me this little robot that's going to come here, take your food off this thing, and put it in front of your plate, nah. Yeah. No, I'm not going again. I want service. I'm old-fashioned.
Right. Besides, back in my day, we had conveyor belts, and they were good enough for me.
That's right.
So,
but to your comment about taking people's jobs away, there's a lot of doom and gloom about, AI is going to like really replace all the white collar jobs, and we're going to have so many people on unemployment and all that. Look, there's going to be some transformation. There's going to be some job losses, just like anything else. I don't think it's the doom and gloom that everybody's talking about. I think people's jobs are simply going to change, and we don't know how yet. To some degree, we see it with developers. We see it a little bit with call centers, hence the restaurant, all that. But it's not about just getting rid of people. It's just about trying to automate things so that when you do need a person, right, then you have somebody you can talk to, as opposed to having to sit on hold. How many times do we sit on hold with a call center for like 15, 20 minutes with my bank or whatever it is? By all means, please AI this thing, help as many people as you can, and free up the people who you do have to actually pick up my call within a minute or two. I don't think you lose a job. But like you said, I think that's a great observation. You actually free them up to be able to have better customer service, better outcomes, right? More quality time with the people that you're actually going to pick up the phone and talk to. And you're not exhausted at the end of the day from all the BS that you have to take care of every time you pick up the phone to talk to somebody who's yelling at you for something that they didn't do correctly or that the AI could have helped them with. So I think, I don't believe in the whole like, oh my God, our jobs are over. Nah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to keep picking on this idea, like ultimately, if I say, oh, this is an AI, no, I want to talk to a person. The fallback is I'm going to ring the actual phone now.
Yeah.
So that a person picks up.
Yeah.
Fine. But you're still probably covering 70+% of the calls that are coming in.
That's right. And you know what's funny is with the chatbots, that's exactly what happens most of the time. Like if I get on, I'll ask a couple of questions. And if it's not even anywhere near the answers I want, I'll just start typing like agent, person, live human, like which one of these is going to get me the person to chat with me. Yeah. Right. So you're trying to get out of it anyway. But I'm sure it helps a lot of people that get an answer because, they just don't want to bother to Google or whatever. And they just go in there and get the answer. Great.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
yeah. All right. Let's switch gears.
To what?
It's now time for 7 plus or minus 2 questions.
Okay.
There are no guardrails on any of these, or no constraints, I should say. I keep saying guardrails. I mean constraints. Okay. Whatever comes to mind is the right answer. Personal, professional.
Got it.
Whatever. Question 1: what is something that you did recently that went really well?
I learned a new scale on the guitar.
Ooh.
So
what is the scale? You don't have to play it, but you can if you want. But
melodic minor.
Okay. What is that?
So I think, I'm not like I play music, but I'm not like a music professor. But melodic minor is a lot of the music that you hear in Middle Eastern music. Like very melancholic kind of sounding. And I wanted to learn how to like follow the scale on the guitar to solo on it. And then I just did that. It was kind of fun.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Question number 2. What do you wish people cared more about?
Our government.
Yeah.
Enough crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. That's like top of mind, you said.
There's no wrong answer. All right. So question number 3. When you go to share food with people, what's your go-to dish?
I don't share food.
An acceptable answer.
I don't know that honestly, I don't know that I have a go-to dish. I think when I go to a restaurant and we order something and I take a bite and I think it's really good, immediately I'll offer and say, you got to try this. This is pretty good. I like to share in the experience, but I don't know that I have a go-to food that I would say, hey, you can try this.
What, do you cook at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What do you make? What's something you make that's like something you think or like?
There's different areas. If it comes to barbecuing, I love to barbecue. I'll make pork butts, briskets, ribs, burgers, right? I think my burgers are pretty darn good. So, I like to share those. But I'll also, like, if I'm in the mood, I'll also pick up one of Julia Child's books and I'll cook like a boeuf bourguignon or something like that. I'll make a souffle. Yeah, if I'm in the mood, I'll do it. Of course, through the pandemic, I make sourdough like everybody, homemade sourdough.
Of course, required.
Because if you don't, what kind of baker are you?
Yeah. You're just not doing the pandemic properly.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, the one thing I haven't done, and I don't know why I hesitate to do it, is like cooking sweets, like baking. Besides sourdough, I don't dabble in baking. Don't know why.
When you cook, do you follow recipes to the T, or do you?
So that's funny. It depends. So if I'm cooking something from Julia Child's, I don't mess with it. I just follow what she says. If I'm cooking a recipe that my mom gave me for Lebanese food, I'll tweak here and there to make it more efficient or change something, make it maybe a little bit more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Next question. What is the business value of empathy?
You're asking me the thing that I care about most.
You're who I thought of when I wrote this question. So
I'm trying to think about how to answer this. The business value of empathy is connecting to the client and producing high level client centricity, like truly caring about the client. And when you care about the client and you give the client what they're asking for, or the consumer, they're going to reward you. And I think truly understanding that, I think the other side of it, having true empathy helps you connect with your employees, which helps you be a better boss, which helps you be a better leader, create a better culture, a better company. So it might not be monetary value, but certainly if you have people who want to come and work with you and stay longer, I think the business value of that is that you're gaining knowledge, you're keeping the knowledge you have around. So I think it's both consumer facing and internal facing.
Penultimate question. Waving at flaggers, yes or no?
Flaggers?
So people who do the stop and slow signs at construction sites or road work.
Oh, waving at them?
No. Yeah. Do you wave at them when you go by?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I mean, look. I'm glad
Yeah.
they found a way to make money and be useful, and I think that's great. But I just don't wave.
Okay.
Am I supposed?
No wrong answers.
Am I supposed to?
There's no wrong answer. Yeah, that question came up because I'm a waver, and when I'm passing people who are, or like the people behind me or something, I oftentimes don't see people waving, and so I'm just wondering, like, it just interested me. So there's no wrong way of doing it.
No, it makes me want to like ask one of these people, like, is it better to wave or just not do anything? And how do you feel about it? Now I'm curious.
All right. Last question.
Okay.
Imagine that it's a year from now. What do you hope to not be carrying anymore?
Oh, wow. I don't know how to answer that. What do I hope to not be carrying anymore? Because when you ask the question, I keep thinking, well, what kind of burden do I have, right? My kid's student loan? Yeah. I mean, that would be probably the first thing that I could think of. Yeah, I think that probably it. I mean, I'm thankful for what I have. I don't know that I want to like, toss anything out, but if I could get these student loans, paid off, that good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
That was great.
Let's stop talking. I know where I'm at right now. My way of seeing is keeping me from seeing other ways of seeing.
No, that made sense.
Hopefully you follow.
Yeah, that made sense. Yeah. I had the same problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to break out of it. But you have to like just force yourself to just try things.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to do, especially like I think it's also an age thing for us. Like we're not like we think differently, we have knowledge, so some of our knowledge holds us back sometimes, I think. Or we know, I did that before, and if I do it again, that's we ought to be able to like break away from that. And it takes a lot of effort and time to break away from it. But I see like younger kids adapt things like we used to when we were younger. And I think it's totally okay to admit that and to say, I need to break myself to say what doesn't matter. Go try it, learn something new, and see what happens. And I really, really had to do that. Yeah. And it's really hard to do. It's really hard to break out of it. Gray beards, man.
Yeah. Yeah. My kid said yesterday, I don't think I realized just how gray you are.
Oh,
and I was like, first off, fuck you. Secondly, you're right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, kid.